Lefesu spots a figure in the sky, and Ego Karos identifies them as Terra. He asks Lefesu for permission to dispose of him, but she tells him to stand down. Terra drops to the ground, with Luna crying over his body. Luna begs Lefesu to spare Terra, but Lefesu isn't really willing to. Luna tears up and tells Lefesu that she'll do anything. Someone suddenly calls out to Lefesu, as Pollux and an army of hero spirits along with the Dragon King Layden appear before the group. Lefesu realizes that the girl is not Pollux, and the girl confirms that she's just borrowing Pollux's body. She then orders her hero spirits to kill Terra, but Lefesu stops the attack. She reminds Luna of her promise, as she then identifies the person possessing Pollux to be the goddess Alevinus. Lefesu uses her skill Alcade, which increases her level to 1500, while the heavenly stars have their levels increased to 1000. Lefesu uses her skill Excols, which allows skills to fuse together. Scorpius unleashes her poisonous breath Graphius, paired with Sagittarius's never-missing arrow Alnisul, which combines together with Libra's Brachium attack. Ares and Ego Karos combines their two attacks Mesartheme and Deneb Argidi. Karkinos then uses his skill Esquila, which turns single-target attacks into all-target attacks, and pairs it up with Sagittarius's Acuban's attack. Ego Karos and Castor then groups all the enemies inside a swirl, as the spirit heroes all got decimated by all the combined attacks. However, Alevinus then immediately revives the army with her Argonautai skill. Lefesu then steps forward, praising the heavenly stars for their effort. She uses her weapon, Prophet with Golden Bow, and unleashes her solar flare attack on the entire army. The spirit heroes all get destroyed, as the attack pierces through the entire solar system. Lefesu tells Alevinus that she can't defeat her, and Alevinus agrees. However, she reminds Lefesu that there were heroes in the past that have managed to defeat her. Alevinus uses her Argonautai skill again, and she summons the 4 members of the 7 heroes that have passed away. The Beast King Dubhi, the Adventurer King Fekta, the Blacksmith King Mezer, and the Sword King Alioth. Alevinus laughs, wondering if Lefesu is able to defeat the heroes, as a mysterious girl that's totally not Benetnasch observes the fight from a distance. On the battlefield, Lefesu faces off against the Dragon King Layden, alongside the other 4 heroes, all of them at level 1000. Lefesu is struck by Alioth's blade, which actually causes her to bleed. Lefesu uses one of her feathers to tear apart Alioth's head and dodges an incoming attack from Layden. She prepares to strike back at Layden, however she gets intercepted by Alioth. Lefesu suddenly gets a glimpse of Alioth's face in the past, which throws her off guard. Scorpius, Ego Karos, and Ares gets enraged upon seeing the heroes, which causes the coordination of the heavenly stars to fall apart. Libra and the rest of the heavenly stars that are still sane heads over to support Lefesu. However, Alevinus summons another army of heroes to intercept them. The coordination of the party is completely gone, with Lefesu facing off against Layden and Alioth, Libra, Sagittarius, Castor, and Karkinos facing off against the hero army, and Sagittarius, Ares, and Scorpius facing off against the other 3 heroes. The 12 heavenly stars are overwhelmed, and Lefesu wants to go help them out. She figures that she'll just have to quickly eliminate Alioth and Layden. However, she suddenly gets a flash of memories of Alioth in the past. Lefesu ends up hesitating to kill Alioth, which confuses her. She realized that the real Lefesu is vulnerable to those she's grown attached to, which explains why she lost to the 7 heroes in the past. Layden suddenly launches an attack at Lefesu, which could result in Midgard being wiped out, forcing Lefesu to take the attack head-on. Meanwhile, Ares gets completely thrashed around by Dubhi. Someone suddenly saves Ares by knocking Dubhi away, and the person turned out to be Leon. Back to Lefesu, she summons her sword and unleashes her skill Quick Raid, a skill that reduces attack power for landing continuous hits, to fight against Alioth. Lefesu is confident that she'll be able to push back Alioth. However, she is hit by memories of the past again, and ends up being defeated. Layden then stomps on her, and Lefesu barely manages to hold back his foot. Lefesu is left vulnerable, as Alioth charges in for another attack. Someone suddenly attacks both Alioth and Layden, saving Lefesu. A girl stood over Lefesu, reminding her that she'll personally beat her up if she were to lose to anyone. The girl is none other than the vampire princess Benetnasch, which I'm sure none of you expected. We flash back to Benetnasch waking up after having been killed by Lefesu. Her subordinates barged into her room and tells Benetnasch that Lefesu had healed her with the Amrita elixir that is capable of healing any wounds. Benetnasch realized that Lefesu knew that she'd survive, yet was still going along with Benetnasch's heartfelt last words. Benetnasch becomes flustered and kicks out all of her subordinates. Back in the present, Benetnasch shows disgust to the spirits of the heroes. She said that they kept crying about the mistake they had made 200 years ago. However, they're still repeating the same mistake in the present. Benetnasch declares that she'll personally send all the spirits back to hell and engages Alioth in combat. She notes that it feels off and proceeds to overpower him. Dubé then charges at her, but Benetnasch blocks his attack, once again stating that it felt off. She then flings Dubhe away and engages both Mezer and Fekta. She finds the feeling off as well and punches both of them to smithereens. The heroes are revived, but Benetnasch simply defeats them all again. Benetnasch becomes enraged at how weak the heroes are, stating that they're not even worth her time. She's furious at how weak the heroes have become and starts to pummel them one by one, starting with Alioth, who in the past would have been able to cut off her arm and carved her from her shoulder to her torso. She then attacks Dubé, who was able to split the land and shatter her arm in the past. Her next victim was Fekta. His arrows in the past were strong enough to pierce through the Dragon King's body. Finally, there's Mezer, who despite having the technology, is lacking the will and innovation he had in the past. Benetnasch tells all the heroes to disappear from her sight and raises her level up to 1500. Lefesu suddenly holds her back and informs Benetnasch that the hero spirits are unkillable. Benetnasch decides to seal them with her Luna tentacle skill instead, as memories of their shared past enters her mind as she watches the situation unfold. Back at the 12 heavenly stars, Leon had just saved Ares from the hero spirits. He then starts to fight the other spirits, and the heavenly stars are confused as to why he's helping them. Sagittarius asks if they should intervene, but Libra tells him to hold off on that, as Leon would most likely attack them for intervening in the fight. Leon mows through all the hero spirits, and Ares is confused at how weak the spirits are even though they're all at level 1000. Libra answers that the spirits have no coordination, and Castor explains that it's because the Argonautai skill is currently incomplete. Argonautai can only show its full potential with both Castor and Pollux. Pollux would summon the spirits while Castor would command them. Ares observes how easily Leon is destroying the spirits and has a look of admiration. Libra then informs Aegokeros to restrain the spirits to prevent them from being revived. Leon then transforms into his level 1000 Nemean lion form and engages Ladin in combat. Before Lefesu showed up, both Leon and Ladin were among the 4 strongest individuals in Midgard, and they're now about to face each other for the first time in history. They attack each other, as Ares cheers on from the sidelines. Meanwhile in the city, Say, Virgo, and the rest of the party are having tea as the battle wages on in the background. Say is surprised at how relaxed everyone is, and Gantz explains that there's no point in panicking as there's pretty much nothing they can do anyways. Say feels like they can at least try calming down the crowd, but Virgo says that it wouldn't really do anything as the whole town is in chaos. The scene shifts to Luna over at the battlefield, where she tries to shield Terra from the attacks. Lefesu suddenly gets in front of her to shield her, and she tells Luna to not needlessly sacrifice herself. Lefesu places Luna and Terra in a force field, and Luna is confused as to why Lefesu is prioritizing her and Terra over the 12 heavenly stars. However, she looks over and sees that everyone else is just calmly observing the battle, making her feel like an insect compared to them. Lefesu asks Alovinus if she has any other tricks up her sleeve, as Ladin is occupied with Leon, while the hero spirits have all been restrained. The goddess simply smiles, as Lefesu declares that she'll crush anything the goddess throws at her. We get a flashback of Pollux's past, where she had given a hero a divine sword to defeat the Demon King with. This incident took place thousands of years ago, where a hero had risen up to defeat the Demon King. Pollux had given the hero a legendary weapon along with the Demon King's weakness and sent him on his way. Pollux suddenly begins to cry, wondering why no one would question how convenient everything is. Everything is part of a script. The hero would be placed in the first town with only weak beings to help him grow stronger, and the fairy princess would conveniently know about the Demon King's weakness. No one is aware that all the Demon Kings throughout history are all the same entity, while the fairy princess would simply be sending the heroes to their doom. Pollux can't bear having to kill any more people, and considers taking her own life to end it all. She was stopped by Castor, who comforts her as she cries. Castor wonders why the goddess is doing this to them. Pollux is too kind to continue with this role. Castor wants to take over Pollux's position, but he's not allowed to as he is inferior to Pollux. All he can do is pray that someone will tear apart the goddess's script. Thousands of years pass, and Lefesu suddenly shows up in the forest. Pollux is terrified upon seeing Lefesu's level at 4,200, which is past the limit set by the goddess. She asks Lefesu if she needed anything from her, and Lefesu answers that she's here to tame the two siblings. Pollux is caught off guard at the fact that they're being treated like monsters, and Lefesu responds that the two of them have the right to resist with all their might. Pollux and Castor unleashes their Argonautai skill, but Lefesu demolishes it with a single strike. Lefesu uses her intimidation skill and gets close to Pollux's face. She reminds Pollux about the burden she had to carry on and tells Pollux that she'll soon no longer have to send anyone to their deaths. Pollux cries tears of joy upon hearing her words and takes Lefesu's hand. Back in the present, Alevinus uses the Argonautai skill to summon Uranus, the primordial celestial wings, who Lefesu easily defeats. The goddess then summons Aeneas, the progenitor of humans and the guardian of the sacred realm, who Lefesu easily defeats, while telling him to put some clothes on. Lefesu explains that the guardians of the sacred realm have their powers passed down from generation to generation, making the current Aeneas powerless as his power is currently held by Parthenos. The goddess decides to unveil her trump card and summons a hero from another world. The person turned out to be a boxer, and Alevinus adds that the boxer had introduced English to this world. She said that Karkinos had picked up bits of that language, which triggers Lefesu and causes her to take out the boxer in a single punch. Alevinus then decides to summon Mars from the 7 luminaries to fight Lefesu, and the result of the battle is the exact same as their first encounter. Alevinus turns to Ladin as a last resort. However, it turns out that Benetnasch had interrupted his fight with Leon and killed him. Lefesu tells the goddess to leave Pollux's body, but she refuses and asks Lefesu if she has what it takes to attack her body. She's right, as there's really nothing Lefesu can do to get Alevinus out. Castor suddenly chimes in and tells Pollux not to lose. He reminds her of their dream to finally break free of the goddess's script, which motivates Pollux to try and resist the goddess's control. Lefesu suddenly remembers someone's words and summons Ixgate to call upon Taurus of the 12 heavenly stars. Taurus arrives and unleashes his skill Aldebaran, which has the ability to shatter the goddess's power. The goddess vanishes as all the spirits begin to disappear as well. Taurus leaves the scene and tells Lefesu that she's starting to become more like her old self. Lefesu realizes that it's most likely a side effect of using the Alkate skill. She then watches as the heroes fade away, and she hopes to meet the real ones next time. The other half of the Gemini, the fairy princess Pollux, of the 12 heavenly stars joins the party. The battle is finally over, but Lefesu notes that the goddess's fragment that they fought was not even as powerful as a single strand of her hair. The day after the battle, Dina never ends up returning and mysteriously vanishes without a trace.